perhaps even spark a little conversation regarding items of financial and economic importance. Now, as a previous listener to this show, we're talking on any number of things. We're going to be doing it again here today. I'll tell you what, folks, it hasn't been hard to fill up the page with things to discuss during the show here. My goodness. I mean, just about every news headline that's pulsing through right now has something to do with the macroeconomic picture, our markets. If you're watching your 401k, lots of stuff here. Lots of stuff we're going to be talking about, and not even going to get to all of it, I'm certain, at least not here in the hour show, but I'm going to try to get the big stuff. But in doing so, you recall as a previous listener that as we're doing that, nothing that we're talking about here is intended as a specific recommendation for you. Meaning that even though we're going to be talking on some things, some in a positive light, some in a negative light, again, in doing so, everybody has their particular financial situation. We strongly, strongly recommend you reach out to your tax advisor, your financial advisor, or if you'd like to reach out to us at North Main Financial Group, love to chat with you. Love to hear about your particular financial journey. See if there are ways in which we might be able to be helpful to you. Online, you can find us, northmainfinancial.com. That's north like the direction, Main like the street, financial.com. Northmainfinancial.com. We have a contact page on there. Leave us an email address or a phone number. Let us know the most preferred and desirable ways for us to contact you again at northmainfinancial.com. You're also welcome to call us here in the studio. Can't promise we're going to get to your question. Producer Reese, he'll make sure he gets your question down there. If I can't get to it today, promise I'll get to it next week. We got a lot jam-packed into the show, but we certainly want to make the subjects and certainly your points of interest relevant here. So please call in if you got something that you'd like for us to touch on or for me to opine a little bit about, at least within the regulations that I'm allowed to opine on certain things. Happy to do it. 844-STUDIO-4. That's 844 788 3464, 844 788 3464 here in the studio. All right, let's go ahead and just crank right into it. We just got beyond tax season. I'm sure there's a big sigh of relief for many of you out there, or maybe just a feeling of just being empty pocketed. I'm sure that's true for many of us. That once we get beyond tax season, certainly, if you owed money to the IRS, it's good to get that kind of stuff behind you, but it's a little bit deflating if you had to write a check to the IRS, or maybe you're one who's expecting a refund and you're anxiously taking a look at your bank account there every single time that you're opening up the app online. And I can see producer Reese; he's giving me the big thumbs up there, looking for that refund. I'm happy for you, producer Reese. That's good. But at any rate, we're finally beyond it. And so that's a good thing to have that kind of season behind us. We had the Masters this past weekend. Yeah, Masters is one of those things you don't even have to be a golf aficionado, I don't think, to really appreciate. Just beautiful. And then you got Jim Nance in the background there, and he's doing his announcing thing. And I mean, if you're looking to take a good nap, I'm serious about this. If you're looking to take a good nap, you've never watched the Masters. Watch the Masters next year. Man, what an experience. Unbelievable. And unbelievable cinematography as well. Just watching the pictures and the video from that. And Rory McIlroy, first time ever. And now he has the career slam, meaning he's won all four majors over the course of his career. Six people in the history of professional golf for the PGA. Six people in history have done that. Now he's one of them. Pretty amazing stuff. Pretty cool to watch. All right, but I know you came here for the market stuff. We got to give you other stuff too. We're going to get some sports. We're going to get some food. I got some very interesting collaborations here, food wise. I promised producer Reese I wouldn't talk about anything that sounded entirely, let's say, unusual in the food collaboration and things. Every once in a while, we get some kind of weird stuff that we bring up here. But I promised him that we had some stuff that went together in what sounded like a pretty palatable way. So we'll get to that a little bit later in the show. But let's go ahead and get jumping right into it. Hard to start. A pretty amazing time. I mean, when you look at it, what's happening in the markets right now, I mean, you look at it in the context of history. I think that's the healthiest way to come at it because, when we're looking at especially more volatile, and let's be frank about it's really the more negative volatile times, we get more hyper-focused on it. And let me say it a different way. If it's positively, more volatile, we really don't mind it at all, right? If we're above average, if we have an expectation of X, we got X plus 10%, X plus 20%, X plus 30% in terms of expectation of return. Well, who's going to argue against that? Everybody loves that kind of stuff, right? You get your monthly statements or quarterly statements. Everybody loves to see that. We tend to, for the obvious reasons, get hyper focused on when it is negatively volatile. And that's what we have right now by and large, especially if you own some more of the aggressive end of the market right now, especially if you're in big cap technology, mega cap kind of stuff that has pulled back. In some instances, and I know if you own these things, you know this is true, back 10, 15, 20, 30, 40%, even more off of those highs. Folks, that kind of movement is real. I mean, you really can't discard that in any way. That kind of movement, because whether we like it or not, I know, a little secret here. We all look at the highs relative to our valuations, and we expect it to go straight up from there. So when it comes down off of those highs, like what we've experienced here over the last several weeks, it hurts. I mean, even though it's way above expectation, we performed way above the average. We take that high watermark and expect that that's the way it's going to be forever. Well, that's not the way it should work, but we do that anyhow. So when we're looking at the kinds of things market-wise that are happening, and we're going to talk about this throughout today's show. So this is not just for this segment. I know markets are top of mind, just pulsating through every possible media outlet that's out there right now. When we're looking at it, we have to take it in context of expectation and planning. And I'm going to talk about this a lot here today, because having these conversations and emails and texts and Zooms and all those kinds of things, we're having it constantly. You have to take it in the context of expectations and planning. Let me put it to you this way. If you're planning, if your overall financial plan is for an expectation, I'll just draw out a broad range here just for discussion purposes, is between 8 and 12% per year. Folks, when you're running at 20% a year for a while, you're going to have a reversion to the mean. I know nobody likes to think about that. I get it but when you're looking at it from an historical standpoint, so let's use the S&P 500 index. It's an easy marker to be able to hold out there. You look at it over the last 75 years, you're looking at roughly a 9.8% average per year return in the S&P 500 index. And I'm just using that because it's so widely used. When we're looking at then performance in the relative near term, I'm chuckling because we do think this way. When we have a performance in the near term that's at 20% or higher on a short run, we should expect, very logically, with a high level of expectation, that at a certain point we'll have a reversion to the mean, which means we're going to have a pullback from that speed of acceleration in order to be able to get, I know, wait for it, the average. That's how that goes together. So, but every time that we get here, we act like it's the first time this has ever happened, or it never happened like this before. Now, you know that's not true. If you're a listener to Dollars and Cents here, you know this kind of stuff happens. We've been talking about this for the last several months. We're going to talk more about it in the balance of today's show. But we're going to talk about a lot of other things as well. We're going to talk about some earnings reports, and we're talking about some other macro kinds of indicators out there to make sure that they're on your radar screen, making sure that relative to your plan and your portfolio that you're well prepared. But before that, we're going to take a little deep breath here as we hear from our sponsors. Going to come back here in a few moments here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial, coming back on WSIC.
Keep it right here. Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi will return shortly on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Well, keep the rain gear within close reach for our Thursday, likely to be the wettest day of our week so far. Not going to rain all the time everywhere, but got to be ready for scattered showers, even a couple of thunderstorms possible as we work our way through the day. The rain, of course, is beneficial for the drought and beneficial for plants across the area. We need it, but it is a bit messy at times. Low 70s for highs today, low 60s tonight, back in the mid-70s with an isolated shower tomorrow. That's your forecast at the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Listen, save, enjoy. The WSIC app, available now in your app store.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. This Saturday is the Spring Taba Walk in Old Town Cornelius. The area's premier arts and music festival is a fun-filled event with something for the entire family, including 2 stages of live performances, local artists and vendors, craft breweries, food trucks, a petting zone, kid areas, games, giveaways, and more. We'll see you Saturday in Old Town Cornelius for the Spring Taba Walk. The 500 Club in Statesville presents live music on Saturday night with a performance by Trax Trio. The trio will cover a wide variety of music from a range of styles and genres, plus include their own original music. Call 704-872-9990 or visit the 500 Club online for more details on live music this Saturday night. Join Eastwood Homes for the grand opening of Peyton's Creek in Statesville on Laurel Cove Road, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Discover stunning 1 to 2 acre home sites, explore Eastwood's Build on Your Lot program, and enjoy tasty food, sweet treats, music, games, and family fun. May 3rd, don't miss this exciting community celebration. Hey Lake Norman, Pulp Juice and Smoothie Bar is having their grand opening on Tuesday, April 22nd at their brand new Cornelius location, 9623 Bailey Road, Suite 101. Come out, try one of their amazing fresh smoothies, and while you're there, enter for a chance to win free smoothies for an entire year. Get the details and enter online at pulpjuiceandsmoothie.com. Again, that's Tuesday, April 22nd. See you at Pulp Cornelius. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, The Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Floors, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, The Warren Treaty, The Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
It's Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 1059 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Second quarter of today's show, football reference. And I am going to stop. We're going to pause. No, I'm not going to pause. I'm just going to switch directions on you a little bit. Usually at the start of the second quarter of each Dollars and Cents show, we're talking sports. And usually I am talking about how many days it is until the beginning of the football season. And what I can say definitively, producer Reese, you know this as you're shaking your head, as we say here very nearly every week, we are now 1 week closer to the start of the football season. And I'm not a count the days kind of guy. I just know we're closer to it than we were last week on Dollars and Cents. And in addition to that, if you're not watching these kinds of things in a crazy kind of way as we do over here at the radio station, it's draft day, and so we got to talk a little bit about. And I know, especially if you're one who follows our Panthers or you're a football fanatic or anything like that, everybody has an opinion, including me, about where our Panthers need to go. We were just talking about this in the break. I gotta start with the things that they're not glamorous or exciting, but from where I sit, I know it's just one person's opinion. I get it, but we got to look at those offensive and defensive lines. We got to protect those guys. We got to protect those guys who are running the ball up the middle on offense, and we got to put some pressure on the quarterback to stop that run up the middle on defense. That's just one man's opinion. You got a different opinion? Call me here. I'm not going to say that I'm going to agree with you. 844-STUDIO-4 here in the studio. 844-788-3464 here in the studio. I mean, we've had some challenges. The Panther fans have, and the Panthers overall have, in terms of that winning record. And but I'll tell you what, hope springs eternal. I do, and I know it's pretty childish. Every time the draft comes around, I think this might be the one. This might be the one. I mean, who knew? I mean, I use the example all the time. It's unfair to do that, but I use the example all the time of Tom Brady. I mean, if you look at that guy, he was basically discarded when he was drafted. I mean, nobody liked him. He even took bad pictures, producer Reese. Now he takes all perfect pictures.
Well, what was he, like sixth round?
Yeah, sixth round.
Like
I don't know why I remember this, but I do remember it. But probably because I follow the Patriots a little bit. He was the 99th pick. So he was sixth round, 99th person chosen in the draft. There wasn't anybody who was rushing for him, is what I'm saying. There was nobody who was saying, boy, that's my guy. This is going to be the greatest of all time. And no, that did not happen. So I like to use that. I know he's once in a generation. I don't need to hear those calls and those emails and those texts as well. I get that. But I like to think about that every time that our Panthers make a draft pick. So we'll see what happens here. Happens over the course of a couple of days. We'll see what happens. Hoping for good things. And there's a lot of excitement about it, but there's a certain amount of draft picks that are going to do well, a certain amount of draft picks that are not going to do well. We just hope we have more of the former and less of the latter as we're looking at that. But thank you so much for hanging with us here at Dollars and Cents. And we were talking about just before the break there. We're going to be talking about it a lot today. Not only in terms of earnings reports or at the back end of the quarterly earnings season here in terms of, well, I shouldn't really say that. Actually, that's not true. In terms of the number of companies inside of the S&P 500 who have announced, we're about at the midway point of earnings season here. Just a lot of the big names have announced. We're going to get more next week in terms. We're going to get the Amazons of the world. We're going to get the Metas of the world that are going to be on the earnings calls next week. So that's big. I don't want to dismiss that at all. But in terms of just earnings overall, market overall, top of mind for just about everybody. I get it. I do. I mean, it's especially, and we talked about this just before the break here, especially when it's in the negative. Now, I have to tell you that in terms of expectation, no, I know practically nobody does this. Just maybe folks who spend too much time in a library stall like me. That there should be an equal amount of concern about when we're running above the average as there is when we're below the average. Seriously, there should be. If you're looking at it from a performance standpoint and in terms of market expectation, if you're running above the average for too long, you know that that's not natural. We've had that here for the last couple of years. We've talked that almost ad nauseum here on Dollars and Cents. We talked about how we were running above the average for a significant period of time. It happens. It's great. And don't get me wrong, I love looking at those statements too. It's wonderful. Love seeing those numbers get larger, especially faster than expectations. But that's unnatural. We know at a certain point there's going to be a pullback. There's going to be that reversion to the mean. And that's what we're starting to see here right now, especially in the more aggressive end of the market. And then, you hear the kind of things that are pulsing through our airwaves. I hear comparisons to COVID, to 2008, 2009. Folks, it's not true. It just isn't true. The same kind of genesis points, the impetus for these kinds of movements, it just isn't the same. And it's not to say that these kinds of movements are unique. They're not. It's not to say that somehow we've never been here before. Not true. But when we're looking at what's happening in the market, we need to take it in the context of history. Folks, we have been here previously, dozens, hundreds of times previously. And so when I hear folks say, come back 20, 30, 40% off of some of the highs of these more aggressive stocks, what did you expect? I mean, that's a very natural kind of movement when you have some things, and these are the stocks that did it. These are stocks that were up 60, 80, 100% or more in the previous 12 months. And that's not sustainable. So you're going to have a little bit of a reality check, whatever that may be. In this particular instance, it's more about macroeconomic policy when we're talking about tariffs and all the residual effects that come from that. But if it wasn't that, it would be something else at some point. You don't have to believe me. Just take a look at the market history. And that's very, very important to keep in mind. Again, we're having a lot of conversations about this. That's why I've spent so much time here over the last couple of weeks in talking about it, because folks say, well, should we be looking at this in the same way as the market malaise there in 08, 09? No, you shouldn't be. I mean, this is the kind of thing, again, that is not only, I'm going to call it normalized. In my world, it's normalized anyhow, but also relatively orderly. This hasn't been an external geopolitical factor. It hasn't been a macroeconomic factor which has caused this, or something unexpected, which always is what the market is. Yes, this particular genesis is probably unexpected, but in terms of the market movement, not unexpected. Had to have this happen. Had to have some normalization in order to be able to get, I know, say it again, our averages. That's very, very important. And then I heard folks say, well, this is a new time. This is a different time. This is not 08, 09, or 2000, or 1992. I completely agree with all of that. Completely agree with it. But when I look at it in the context of 75 years of market history, there's always something every couple of years or so. Always. Always big geopolitical events or big macroeconomic events that have significant impacts on significant portions of the market, sometimes the whole thing. This is not, though, the kind of thing that, in terms of the unknowns, is harder to quantify. I know the market's having a hard time quantifying for which companies, which sectors, which industries are going to be long-term, let's call it even short-term and long-term, affected by tariffs. But it's not a long-term kind of malaise out of which we can't pull ourselves. There's going to be an adjustment made by each and every company, in each and every sector, in each and every industry to be able to accommodate it. And yes, as much as we may not like to talk about it, if they are extended, it's going to come downstream. It will. It'll hit the consumer. And then that's where you hear me talk a lot Then I'm going to be watching very closely about changes in consumer behavior. And we're starting to see those kinds of things, not because or anybody gets real excited, not because of the effects of tariffs yet. It is literally financially impossible, almost financially impossible. Let me say that. Almost financially impossible to have the effects of tariffs already. Can't be. There's not enough speed on the size of our system for that to be the case. However, if you look at it over an extended period, will there be some measure of increase in prices on everything from automobiles to stuffed animals? Yeah, could happen. Could happen. Or it may not happen. Or it may not happen at the extent that the market is anticipating today. And that's why, folks, again, when you're looking at these kinds of things, doing straight line linear thought is so dangerous, especially if you're couching it in either a particular political ideology or whether you're for or against. It becomes very, very challenging because dollars and cents, and it's sense with an S-E-N-S-E, meaning good sense in managing our portfolios, good sense in managing our assets. And you have to divorce that, if you will. You have to separate that from anything that may have to do with your political persuasions or your personal inclinations, if you can. Most folks, practically everybody, doesn't do that. And that's why it's so important, if you're going to do it well, where you have to separate that from a little bit. And that's why when we're talking on it here, why we spend the time that we're talking about it here, why we make the emphases that we do, that we want to make decisions for the right reasons, not just because of the hyperbole and emotions that's coming through our radio systems or through our television systems or through our online systems. That's why we spend the time on it that we do. Make your decisions for the right reasons. Big deal. And again, I know I'm spending a lot of time on it. You may say, oh gosh, please move on. Talk about food or football or something else. I will. We're getting to that part of things. But I do spend it because we have more than I can count, dozens, now probably into the hundreds, kinds of conversations, touch points, and relays electronically about where we believe things are, what we believe or things are going to do, and what's going to happen. I get it. Again, it happens every single time. 3 decades plus of doing this, I completely understand why folks think and why the market moves in the ways that it does in terms of psychology. Can't predict it, of course, but I understand why things move in the ways they do. That's why I'm saying so emphatically here, as you're making the decisions for your portfolio, as you're making the decisions about what to buy, what to sell, what to hold, that's why I'm emphasizing it in this way. You heard me say it last week. I'm going to say it again here now, that when you're making those kinds of decisions, do not make them into short-term iterations. Don't make them because of what's happening today, this week, or this month. If you have a solid plan, it should be flexible enough to absorb these kind of times, frankly. It really should. Not that we like it, but it should be able to absorb them well. If it's not, you may want to shift your plan. And we're going to be talking about that here in the second half of today's show as well. If you need to make tweaks in your plan, what is it that you should do? When should you do it? That's a big deal. I mean, this, frankly, into weakness, not the time. Time to do it into strength, like what we talked about here a couple of months ago. But we'll talk about when it makes sense and where it may make sense for you. But before that, we're going to take a couple seconds to hear from our sponsors once again. I appreciate so much you hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Back in a few moments here on WSIC.
We'll have more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi following these brief messages on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, keep the rain gear within close reach for our Thursday, likely to be the wettest day of our week so far. Not going to rain all the time everywhere, but got to be ready for scattered showers, even a couple of thunderstorms possible as we work our way through the day. The rain, of course, is beneficial for the drought and beneficial for plants across the area. We need it, but it is a bit messy at times. Low 70s for highs today, low 60s tonight, back in the mid-70s with an isolated shower tomorrow. That's your forecast at the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Welcome home to the feeling of Horn Heating and Air Conditioning is family owned and operated and understands the meaning of community. We treat you like family because you are family. Visit hornhvac.com.
Prioritizing your health is one of the best ways to take care of yourself. From routine visits to the joys of pregnancy to the illnesses that stop you in your tracks, Iredell Health System will be by your side. Learn more at iredellhealth.org.
Hi, This is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
With 5 area locations, Desco is your go-to resource for electrical supplies. Albemarle, Mooresville, Salisbury, Statesville, and Lexington. No matter where the job takes you, you're sure to be close to a Desco. Shop now at DescoInc.com.
Babe, dinner's ready.
Ladies.
Babe, dinner's ready.
Ever feel like your husband just isn't listening?
Dinner's ready.
Maybe he just can't hear.
Babe.
It's time to turn up the volume on life. Beltone in Mooresville and Cornelius can help with a free hearing test and expert solutions tailored for you. Call 877-HEAR-123 today. That's 877-HEAR-123. Don't wait. Call 877-432-7123 and bring back the sound of love.
Lowry Drug is a source for excellent pharmacy services. We have served the Statesville community since 1959. We have attentive customer service, a state-of-the-art compounding laboratory, and the Dispill medication packaging system that takes the work out of medication management for those using medication planners. We do it for you. Come see us at Lowry Drug in Statesville. Call 704-873-2247. Come see us.
Yeehaw for rodeo season at Harrison's, the home of work, western, and wow. Whether you compete or cheer from the stands, Harrison has the looks to help you wow the crowd. Get western classics and the latest styles from Harriet, Cinch, Rock and Roll Denim, and Wrangler. Find us in Mooresville.
Are you sick of running out of hot water? Whether it's in the middle of a shower or doing dishes, cold water's never fun. Say goodbye to those surprises with a Rinnai tankless water heater from GMV Energy. This energy-efficient propane-powered solution heats water instantly, so you'll never run out again. Plus, it saves money and frees up space. Propane models start at just $295 after rebates. Visit any G&B Energy location or gbenergy.com to learn more.
The #1 station for people who say we're their favorite station.
WSIC.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Americans' trust in President Trump to bolster the U.S. economy appears to be faltering. A new Associated Press North poll finds many people fear the country is being steered into a recession, and Trump's broad and haphazard tariffs will cause prices to rise. About half of Americans are extremely or very concerned about the possibility of a recession in the next few months. Walmart is ramping up its discounts, hoping to drive demand and grow market share with economic uncertainty. Bloomberg has learned the retailer is rolling out manager special signs to call attention to price cuts on key items in order to match competitors' prices. Nintendo's new Switch 2 console is already sold out, and it's not even in stores until June 5th. Pre-orders started at midnight for the $450 devices, and they're no longer available on the Walmart, Best Buy, and Target websites. Heading toward the close, markets are up between 1.1 and 2.4%. I'm Nancy Lyons, Bloomberg Radio.
Who is this? This is 105.9 100.7.
WSIC. Local starts here.
Now more of Dollars and Cents with certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much, Hank, for hanging here into the second half of today's show. If you're a 9-to-5er, yep, you got 24 minutes, 53 seconds until you hit that 5 o'clock bell. I appreciate so much you hanging with us here during that time as we're talking about all things economic, financial. Yeah, we're talking markets. I usually tease you up a little bit and force you to wait until the fourth quarter of the show. But yeah, we pretty much came out of the gate talking about it because there's a lot of volatility right now. Got to talk about some of the company earnings, though. Kind of interesting. Actually, this is literally real time. Just, half an hour ago, as of the time of this live broadcast or as of the time of this recording, if you happen to be listening to it on the podcast, on any of the social outlets, which, by the way, if you don't have the WSIC News app, you got to take a look at that. You really do. Easy to do, free to download. Google Store, Apple Store, get out there, get the app. What's so nice about it is you don't have to worry about whether you're in the radio signal or not. Literally, you go and click on the app, comes up with a big button, which is good for people like me. Just to press on it, you can hear the live broadcast. But in addition to that, got all the past shows on there as well. So if you want to listen to past shows, you missed something, a favorite of yours, you want to go back and take a listen to it, all of those are on the app as well. So make sure that you do that in downloading the WSIC radio app there on the Google Store, Apple Store. But just before I came on here, again in real time, had earnings come out from Intel. Ticker symbol Indian Nancy Tom Charlie INTC, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the equity or the bonds. I didn't think the earnings sounded all that bad. And obviously, because it came out in real time, I haven't had a chance to look at the 10Q yet and really dig into the numbers. But boy, the market didn't particularly like it. Down several percent as the numbers came out. They've had a bad run. They just have. They've just had an exceptionally challenging time. Just changed out their CEO again. I thought the numbers sounded better than where Intel has been. They have some legacy cost issues with regards to retiree benefits that are substantial, and they are a significant and ongoing expense for the company. So that is sitting out there. That's not going away at any time soon. But I thought the report overall was relatively, let's call it semi-optimistic in terms. I mean, they beat earnings. They beat on the top line as far as EPS is concerned. You get into some of the gritty of it behind the scenes. It's not as rosy as the market liked. It was down a couple percent. Then at the same time, heard from another one, not in the semiconductor business. They're in the search engine business. Chances are you probably heard of this company. Yeah, I'm talking Google. Google. A couple of share classes out there. Most common one, C share class. C is in Charlie. Ticker symbol green, Oscar Green, GOOG. Not a recommendation. Buy, sell, or hold the stock. If you buy the A shares, you're in green, Oscar Green, Larry, GOOGL. Again, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the equity or the debt on the bond end of things. But boy, I mean, rosy. And Google's hit the headlines quite a bit here in the last couple of weeks. If you're one who watches the business news, they got some headwinds. They're fighting against the European Union right now, and I mean that literally, legally, that they're out there fighting. Got a couple of bad rulings against them in terms of their dominance in the search and online advertising market. It's a headache. I mean, if you think about it, take a step back here for just a moment. Whether you like or don't like Google, that's not an issue here with what I'm going to say next. It's so interesting, isn't it? The business environment in which we live. I'm looking big macro, way out, 30,000, 50,000 foot view here. Isn't it so interesting that the aim of business is to grow and to increase profits and to serve your shareholders and your customers in the best ways that you can? But if you do it too well, they penalize you. It's kind of interesting. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. This is not against monopoly, or this is not for monopolies or anything. I'm not getting into those kinds of very subjective style discussions. You've heard me say that many times here on Dollars and Cents. I just find it interesting that the goal is to increase profits and to increase market share, to do better than your competitors. But if you do too well, we're going to penalize you, and we may even force you to break up. So it's very interesting. It's an interesting dynamic as far as the marketplace goes. But even with those relatively negative rulings that have come out here in the last couple of weeks against Google, at least insofar as the most recent earnings, and frankly, in terms of their go-forward look. I heard just a few seconds of it as the news release came out about what they expect here in the following quarter, and let's call it for the balance of the calendar year. Pretty positive. I mean, certainly insofar as Google is concerned. And they're a cash machine. I mean, just look at you. You don't have to take my word for it. Take a look at those 10Ks on the annuals and 10Qs on the quarterlies. I mean, actually don't do that unless you have insomnia. Because, boy, it'll put you to sleep a little bit. Nothing real flashy or exciting there. Take the Cliff Notes version. I know I'm showing my age there. Look at the Cliff Notes version. Get the highlights on it. They do. They just produce an incredible amount of free cash flow and have for a substantial period of time. It's one of the reasons why the stock has done so well over time, except that, coming to the previous point of conversation here on today's show, they've had about a 22.4, depending upon where they ended up today, about a 22 to 24% pullback from where we started on January 1st. Now, that follows, as we talked about, substantially above average returns here for the last couple of years. But certainly if you were one who bought, say, the end of last year, early part of this year, you haven't known a very enjoyable ride to this point, especially on those shares that you bought in that time frame. And so that's what we're seeing right now. So, but a pop-up in the after hours as the earnings was announced, as the earnings were announced, and the market, at least on the surface, don't know how it's trading right this moment, but at least on the surface, the market liked it, and so that was good to see. It happens all the time when we're talking about quarterly earnings and all that goes along with that, and certainly for for Google a good run out of the gate. Now, next company I'm going to talk about here, they've had their share of troubles as well. And we've talked about them here on Dollars and Cents in a not so positive light. And I say that not because of any personal bias against them, but rather because their numbers and frankly, what they were doing in order to increase value on the shareholder side and on the customer side, which just wasn't working. They made some pretty substantial changes. Had a CEO change out here recently again. I mean, again, the second time in the last 5 years that they've had this. And we're talking about a big company. I'm looking at Boeing. Yeah, the same Boeing that produces the commercial airlines. And really, in our, I'll say it from a global economic structure. There are really only two that produce two manufacturers that produce the big jets. Yes, we have some others. Embraer. We have. Canadian Air as well. That also that are Bombardier. Excuse me, not Canadian Air, but that shows my age as well. Bombardier that produces the smaller jets as well as Embraer does. But you're looking at Airbus and Boeing that produce the big bodies and certainly the wide bodies as far as commercial airlines are concerned. But Boeing came out and noted that they were going to be selling some of their navigation assets, and meaning that they were going to be selling them off to third parties to manage, to develop, to continue to provide updates and those kinds of things instead of keeping them in house. Now that's expected when a larger company is going through a restructuring, and certainly Boeing needed to do that. So I was happy to see that it's going to produce about $10 billion of free cash to Boeing, so it puts them in a stronger financial position in doing that. And that's probably something that they did not need to keep in house. We'll see. But I was glad to see it. They're certainly trying to make the steps in order to make a more, let's call it appealing to the market financial structure. They still got some big headwinds. They're not out of the woods yet. They have legacy cost issues because of the size of their retiree base as well. So that's certainly on the radar screen when we're talking about Boeing. But overall, from a financial standpoint, and what it means to basically be a duopoly with Airbus, and that's not my commentary to it. I mean, just feel free to bring up anybody who's in the market in the same ways that Airbus and Boeing are, and in the production of wide body commercial jets, just as anybody else out there. So it certainly is a duopoly, but how do they live into that in an ongoing kind of way that's also from a cost effectiveness and efficiency, a profit margin standpoint? That's what we're going to continue to watch. So it's good to see them making those moves. One additional one here before we go to break. Looking at Merck, and they announced an acquisition, which frankly for the size of Merck isn't that big of a deal, but anything that starts with a sale price or a buy price in the B's, meaning the billions kind of thing, I kind of keep it on my radar screen. $3.5 billion, they're close. I can't, this is not finalized yet, but they're close to a $3.5 billion acquisition of a group called SpringWorks Therapeutics. Pretty niche organization in terms of recovery and rehabilitation therapeutics. When we're looking at SpringWorks, and $3.5 billion again relative to the size of Merck, you say, not that big of a deal. It's still a big deal. $3.5 billion, all cash offer. It's going to be an additive to Merck, and I'm saying that also in the context of Merck. By the way, Mary Roger Kelly hasn't been doing all that well, so we're going to have to watch them. Down about 22% this year. Also, we'll be watching them closely. But before that, we're going to hear from our sponsors. Coming back soon here on Dollars and Cents on WSIC.
Dollars and Cents with your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi, continues straight ahead on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Well, keep the rain gear within close reach for our Thursday, likely to be the wettest day of our week so far. Not going to rain all the time everywhere, but got to be ready for scattered showers, even a couple of thunderstorms possible as we work our way through the day. The rain, of course, is beneficial for the drought and beneficial for plants across the area. We need it, but it is a bit messy at times. Low 70s for highs today, low 60s tonight, back in the mid-70s with an isolated shower tomorrow. That's your forecast at the WSIC Weather Center. I'm meteorologist Chase Myers.
Here's your WSIC community calendar. This Saturday is the Spring Tabawak in Old Town Cornelius. The area's premier arts and music festival is a fun-filled event with something for the entire family, including 2 stages of live performances, local artists and vendors, craft breweries, food trucks, a petting zone, kid areas, games, giveaways, and more. We'll see you Saturday in Old Town Cornelius for the Spring Tabawak. The 500 Club in Statesville presents live music on Saturday night with a performance by Trax Trio. The trio will cover a wide variety of music from a range of styles and genres, plus include their own original music. Call 704-872-9990 or visit the 500 Club online for more details on live music this Saturday night. Join Eastwood Homes for the grand opening of Peyton's Creek in Statesville on Laurel Cove Road, May 3rd from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Discover stunning 1 to 2 acre home sites, explore Eastwood's Build on Your Lot program, and enjoy tasty food, sweet treats, music, games, and family fun. May 3rd, don't miss this exciting community celebration. Hey Lake Norman, Pulp Juice and Smoothie Bar is having their grand opening on Tuesday, April 22nd at their brand new Cornelius location, 9623 Bailey Road, Suite 101. Come out, try one of their amazing fresh smoothies, and while you're there, enter for a chance to win free smoothies for an entire year. Get the details and enter online at pulpjuiceandsmoothie.com. Again, that's Tuesday, April 22nd. See you at Pulp Cornelius. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
Merlefest 2025, presented by Window World, returns April 24th through the 27th in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Hear the Avett Brothers, Bonnie Raitt, the Dead South, Watch House, Wyatt Flores, I'm With Her, Leftover Salmon, the Warren Treaty, the Steel Drivers, and many more. For tickets, visit merlefest.org.
Dollars and Cents continues now. Here's your host, certified financial planner Joshua Dobi on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Hello and welcome back to Dollars and Cents presented by North Main Financial. I'm your host, Joshua Dobi. Thank you so much for hanging with us here. Fourth quarter of today's show, Football Reference. 11 minutes, 55 seconds until that 5 o'clock bell. I appreciate so much, always, every single time. I know I say it. You probably think I'm reading off a card or something. No cards here, folks. We're literally just going at it here. There's no backdrop or something that somebody's telling me what to say. Producer Reese tells me what to say periodically, but other than that, I truly am appreciative of the time that you spend with us here, giving attention to financial, economic topics. We try to mix it up a little bit as well. We talk sports a little bit. We talk food, and that's what we're going to do next. I know you're probably, if you're a frequent listener to Dollars and Cents here, we usually start out talking about quarterly earnings kind of things, big headline kinds of stuff. We get it. Sometimes we'll get into the granularity or something that's kind of a need to know sort of topic, and then we do market stuff towards the end. Well, we flipped you around today. We just came out of the gates on the markets, talking about some quarterly earnings as well, because we're just getting so many touch points from clients and other folks, and talking where are things, what do we expect, the things going to recover to where they were, all of very, very understandable sort of things. We spent a lot of time on that today, but we really can't end the show without talking about one of those words that begins with F. Yeah, not just finances, not just football, but food. All right, let's get into it. Talking about food here. There are a couple. I got one. I ran this by producer Reese during the break, and he was not in agreement of the need for it to exist. And I'll admit, I heard this collaboration as well. Not these aren't publicly traded companies, but they're privately held. When I heard it as well, I thought this might be a stretch. This might be coming back to the pizza flavored Cinnamon Toast Crunch cereal, right? Just stay in your lane. Sometimes, collaboration is good. Like folks trying out new ideas. But when I heard this one, here it is, ready? 5 Hour Energy. So those little capsule size things, usually that you see on the counter in the convenience store, right? When you're on your way, you're ready to check out. That's where I usually see them anyhow, on the convenience store. So 5 Hour Energy shots, but hot sauce. So a combination of the 5 Hour Energy drink, right? And hot sauce. So 5 Hour Energy hot sauce. And that's literally what you think it is. That's what it's described. It's caffeine with hot sauce. Collaboration with a group called Taco John's for the hot sauce, right? And by the way, 5 Hour Energy, privately held. Living Essentials LLC is the group that actually owns 5 Hour Energy. So nobody publicly traded here. But producer Reese, we're talking hot sauce and we're talking 5 Hour Energy drink. Now you opined, which I can't disagree with you, that hot sauce enough should be a stimulant, right?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's just something that needs to be left alone.
I think that this might be stretching a little bit. We say that with these collaborations, which of course are incredibly subjective, just our own opinions.
If you want that double energy boost,
right,
go ahead.
Right.
But I just think,
or maybe start your day with a couple cups of coffee.
Right.
right? But I mean, hot sauce, which I'm a fan of, which I mean, I love hot sauce. 5 hour energy drink, that really never jived with me, but you may love it. I know a lot of people love it. They really love that super caffeinated boost
I've
that
seen
comes
it,
along with it. Yeah,
like you said,
right.
at the stores, but I've never needed one.
No, no, not me neither. I got enough gas in the tank usually that I don't need an additional booster. But when I saw that, I thought
I'd
that
be bouncing off the walls.
I was just going to say the same thing. I mean, I mean, my goodness, between the hot sauce stimulation and the caffeine, caffeine and 5 hour energy, that might be too much. So anyhow, interesting collaboration there. If you are one who loves both 5 hour energy and hot sauce, maybe for you, check it out. All right, keep going on the food line here. Dunkin', publicly traded company. David, Nancy, Kelly, Nancy, excuse me, DNKN, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the equity or the bonds. We talk a lot about Dunkin'. They're one of those ones that does, and now they're called Dunkin' brands. So it's not even Dunkin' Donuts anymore. Even the name of the company itself is now Dunkin' brands. I think they're wanting to broaden out a little bit. They're wanting to show that they are more than the donuts, which I don't see a particular reason why. I think their donuts and their coffee is pretty spectacular, but wanting to broaden it. And this is one of those instances, collaboration wise, where they're working with a group called Cars Donuts, Cars with a K Donuts, Trail Mix. Now I like this. Not so. I mean, producer Reese, when I'm looking at Trail Mix with Dunkin' Donuts, I feel excited.
Right. I just had a hot take though, real quick.
Okay,
Maybe
yeah.
for some people.
All right.
I think Krispy Kreme is better
Oh, see now there are some strong feelings,
in terms of their donuts.
especially
and that's it.
especially here in the Carolinas.
Yeah.
Now you go up to Massachusetts, the birthplace of Dunkin' Donuts, you get exactly the opposite.
Right.
I mean, you got Dunkin' Donuts about every 40 feet, and in Massachusetts, not true, by the
Yeah,
way.
I mean,
Especially for those folks who don't live in Massachusetts. You live in Massachusetts, you might think that actually there's one every 40 feet. So there's strong feelings though on both sides.
that's just my opinion right now.
Yeah.
I think Krispy Kreme is better.
See, I've never met a donut I don't like though. So whether it's
Yeah.
coming from Dunkin' or Crispy, I mean, I love Crispy because of that North Carolina origin. I do love that story.
They're both great. Just
They
if
are.
I had to pick between the two,
I hear you.
that's what I would choose.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Well, they got this collaboration going on with Cars Nuts here. Trail Mix, two different kinds that they're coming out with here over the course of the next couple of weeks. Caramel cold brew, which I thought was kind of interesting. So they're going to have a coffee flavor in this Trail Mix, but also caramel pieces, and so it's that whole salty sweet combination. Which again, if you're looking at my general direction, you just turn out the lights and leave me there. You don't need to ever
I
come
think
back.
most people like that
I
combination.
think so. That's why I think this might be a good thing for them. Along the same line, second flavor, frosted donut with sprinkles is the Trail Mix, right? I mean,
That's
so
the winner.
so I mean, I'm looking at white chocolate pieces, right? I'm looking at white chocolate pieces, some sprinkles in there as well, also some walnuts and some peanuts on the salted end of thing. I could do that.
I
mean,
think that one's the winner.
I
Out
mean,
of
yeah,
all of them.
I'm all in for it. I'm all in for it. One more food item. Got to give you a little bit here. Gosh, it was like sitting in an econ class here for the first three quarters. I know it. Glad you hung around into the fourth quarter here. Got to give you one more on the food line of things. Producer Reese was in on this. Now he's not a sauce guy. I am a sauce guy, but I think that there will be general consensus for you, our fan. One of the most ubiquitous names, certainly in our generation, in terms of food providers, certainly on the QSR, quick serve restaurant end of things, McDonald's. Mary Charlie Daniel, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or the equity, excuse me, the stock or the debt on the bond side of things. McDonald's coming out with McCrispy strips. So they've had chicken nuggets for at least 20 years, maybe 30 years that they've had chicken nuggets. I mean, it's been a long time that they've had chicken nuggets. Now, I mean, and let's call it what it is, folks. We in this country, we love any fried chicken. We just do. Whether you're talking about KFC or you're talking about Chick-fil-A or you're talking about, heck, you can even get fried chicken nuggets over there at Taco Bell, right?
Yeah,
That we love our fried chicken. So McDonald's now, in addition to their chicken nuggets, coming out with McCrispy strips, and they recommend it, although you can choose any sauce, they recommend it with a creamy chili dip that they're going to offer as well.
The only sauce that I use,
Yeah,
like if I do have a sauce,
right?
really, I just do ketchup.
So you're a ketchup guy.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, literally the most popular condiment on the planet. Although salsa, I know, is right there, so it's kind of a crossover with ketchup and salsa. Completely understand that. And what's going to be interesting, and you and I talked about this, producer Reese, on the break. What's going to be interesting is the texture of those McCrispy strips, meaning there is a uniqueness, my opinion. This is just my opinion. Call into the studio if you think differently. But there's my opinion that the texture of the chicken nugget, right, the sensation of eating it, is somewhat unique from, say, Chick-fil-A or from Jack in the Box or from other, which, by the way, Jack in the Box in the news, closing 200 stores, kind of interesting as well. By the way, the ticker symbol on Jack in the Box, appropriately, Jack, J-A-C-K, not a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold the stock or bonds there. But there is a texture with most of these places that is somewhat unique. So if it would be interesting to see if the strips are going to be the same as the nuggets.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was going to say. There's like if you go to Chick-fil-A or Wendy's,
Right,
and you get
Wendy's
the
as
nuggets,
well.
You can kind of tell they're kind of the same.
That
like,
is
in texture wise.
Yeah.
But McDonald's seems to stand out.
It's different
with their breading.
I don't disagree with that. And I'm assuming, I mean, we could be wrong on this. I did not do the in-depth, perhaps, research that I should have done. I'm assuming they're going to use a similar process to what they use on the chicken nuggets, right? So, I mean, they're probably going to want to. They're going to want to maintain that familiarity, maybe with that. But again, if you're a fried chicken fan, again, chicken strips, McCrispy strips, excuse me, but fried chicken strips, and they're recommending it with the creamy chili dip. But they also offer ranch, barbecue, honey mustard, all the normal ketchup in producer Reese's case that folks like with that. So it's going to be up. I mean, see, folks, we're bringing you the good stuff here. On the one hand, we get alpha equations and algorithms, and on the other hand, you get chicken strips. You get that all in the same show. I mean, how can you go wrong here?
And
Right?
then one more hot take.
Oh, what do we got here, Reese?
I don't like mustard.
Uh-oh. All right. Well,
I know that's some people are gonna.
You may have upset half of our listening audience right now, or maybe more. Yeah, especially those who like mustard-based barbecue.
Right. Yeah, but that's just.
All right.
I like ketchup, but
Okay.
not mustard.
Okay. All right. Well, we're on the vinegar-based end of the state here, just barely here in terms of our barbecue, but that mustard base is not too far away from where we're sitting here. So that's them's big words that you're using.
Be careful when I walk out onto the street.
You better watch it. You better watch it if anybody brings it up to you. All right. Let's get some closure here on today's show. Appreciate so much hanging with us here on Dollars and Cents. We're going to bring you that anecdotal stuff every once in a while because, I mean, you can only take so much econ, right? There's only so much that we could talk about what's happening market-wise with your portfolio. A little bit of brevity there as we're talking about things on the food end of the universe as well and football end of the universe. But let's provide some concluding thoughts to that. Market-wise, folks, you hear me saying this constantly. When you're doing your evaluations, you probably are going to get some statements where you're going to see some things, especially if you own some more aggressive things, you're going to see some pullback in values. Folks, that's not necessarily a reason to change your strategy. I mean, let me offer you up even a crazier thought. If it was a great idea at a higher price, isn't it even better idea at a lower price? That's something you may want to consider. And I'm not saying you should add more to your portfolio necessarily, but don't allow just a linear thought process to say because something is down that it's necessarily a bad idea. It might be, but it's also possible that it's just a good company that's been beaten down in stock price. So take a look at that and take a look at it in the context of that long view and lens and make sure that you're making your decisions for the right reasons. Friends, as always, thank you so much. Hang with us here on Dollars and Cents, presented by North Main Financial. Thursdays at 4 o'clock. We're going to come back next week, I promise you, here on WSIC.
Serving you better than ever before. WSIC, Statesville, W290DK Mooresville, W260